interesting. I've been getting hit with some powdery mildew on my tomato plant, and when I look at it, the underside of a bunch of leaves have these little tiny yellow insects on it that look kind of like aphids or something. But at the same time, there's all these little white flies. I'm assuming they're whiteflies. And between the both of them, powdery mildew has definitely hit my tomato plant. As you can see, there we go. You can see some spots there. And let's see if I can get you a picture of the back. So like this, if you look at the leaves, you'll see these yellow splotches, and that's when I know that these leaves are affected. See, oops. All these little bugs, see? And so some of them I had to cut the plant away. It's a lot of the leaves. Other parts I didn't, but I keep getting these patches on some of the branches. Now, I think where it ultimately came from was the damage from this, well, maybe overcrowding in the tomato plant. There was a lot of, like, there was tons of leaves during the rainy parts all growing together, so it looked kind of like this, but like this whole plant was full of it. And so I went through and removed a bunch of the leaves and stuff, but this branch that you're seeing here that's kind of bent downwards had some tomatoes on it, and it was kind of hanging this way and kind of snapped a little bit. And so I ended up just moving it away from here where it originally was and just letting it kind of go down. I probably should have just removed the whole thing, but by the time I had seen this and realized it, it wasn't just this spot that was being affected. The whole plant was getting hit. As you can see, you know, there's all the yellow spots on the leaves. It's mainly just on this plant that I've noticed, though there's a couple spots on some of the others, like this tomato plant right here, these yellowing leaves. It got hit, I'm thinking, because the soil of it was really moist. Like this one I haven't watered in like since I planted it, I think, because it's got enough water from rain and it just hasn't been evaporating enough. Whereas this plant is, which was by far my best producer and grew the best, was drying out constantly all the time. Thankfully today it's not. I did water it yesterday, but it was just, even though I'd water it one day, the next day it was dry. And so finally I have a mulch going that's thick enough that it's keeping the soil underneath it moist. But it's a little too late. We've got into the time of year where the powdery mildew becomes a problem, I guess you'd say. And I didn't really notice, you know, too many issues on this plant, but if you look at this. I didn't see that. See all those little flies there? Or whatever? Are those aphids? If those are aphids, then gosh damn, they've been feeding. They're huge if those are aphids. I took off so many leaves of this plant till it looks like stripped, basically, as you see it now. It definitely wasn't enough though. And that's what this part was then. And here, I thought these were just all little bits of the leaf. Where is it? How do I get that focus on again? But it's not. Those are all friggin' bugs. they're all aphids and stuff. They're just devouring this plant, the new growth there. I also noticed these flies, see those little flies there, a couple times throughout the season. Later on in the season I noticed them more. These little tiny flies getting stuck basically in the trichomes of the tomato plant, and I didn't really know what to do with it, so like I tried to remove them when I saw them, but you know, I couldn't really do that much. This was definitely a lesson learned for me to be a little more careful with my tomato plants. Definitely one cage is not enough, and I need to figure out a better way to grow them in the future. Thankfully this is a cherry tomato plant, so it's not huge tomatoes like some of these other ones. Not that these ones are huge tomatoes, but they're definitely bigger and heavier, like to the point this one, the plant, you know, can't even support itself, right? Thankfully cherry tomato in a cage can support itself, but it needs more support because they outgrow it quite quickly. So, and seeing now what's going on with it, these little bits of damage to the plant, and potentially going to spread to other parts. Like, geez Louise, look at this. Just, they're literally everywhere. Let's get a good view. These are crazy. I really wish that I had more ladybugs. I know my neighbors have some ladybugs on some of their plants. I wish I could just go and ask for some, you know. I think it's a little too late though at this time, but I'm going to do the next best thing, I think, which is going to cut some of the parts that have been affected and they're no turning back, like this piece. I'm just going to cut that and remove all those little aphids, those little bugs, this brown piece there that looks like it's affected and it's not coming back. Some of this new growth is going to have to go, unfortunately. You know, I might have to get rid of that little piece right at the top there. I would say I'd try to wash it off, spray it with a water bottle, use like a soapy spray and stuff, but then I'm gonna get like this whole surrounding area hit with it, and I'd rather just remove some parts and hope that it doesn't affect the rest of my plants, because that would be a real pain in the butt. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that before it gets to be too little too late, because this branch is definitely making its way through here. I don't see any on these plants yet. Well, on the back side of some of these leaves there definitely will be some, I'm sure. Yeah, there's definitely some on where is it? There we go. So yeah, I'm just gonna have to do more damage control and trimming, but hey, it's a life lesson. This is the first, I think it's the first official year that I've grown tomatoes on my own, and yeah, something to keep in mind. Holy cannoli, the squirrel is really going to town in this bed where I planted some peppers. Those are like bell peppers, I think, or something like that. I planted very, very late in the season. I just threw a bunch of seeds from a pepper that I was using. Just threw them all in there. But as you can see, the squirrel is going in here to dig around, you know, isn't going into my pots because they're all mulched, and squirrels don't like mulch. Well, here's a spot where they tried to go. Thankfully, they couldn't get far. They've been trying to get in my pots. I've never seen them, but this is definitely the evidence of it. So anyways, yeah, time to get some work done.